Some goons within the party barged into my bedroom, said the nastiest things possible to my mother-in-law.
A book title for Indian elections.
Actually, the great Indian circus.
Eknath Shinde.
The story of a traitor.
The current national ruling government.
The biggest lie ever told to you. So Modi guarantees like a Chinese warranty.
I heard that your in-laws, are BJP supporters.
Yes.
How do you manage to balance it out when it comes to your family?
That I was never meant to fit in.
So back in 2010, a young woman with no financial backing or any political background joined politics, and today she stands as the member of parliament, fierce, outspoken, and bold. This is Priyanka Chaturvedi for you. Ma'am, this is 2024. Uh, do you feel it is easy for a young woman how you entered into politics to enter into politics now with no financial assistance, political background, and make a mark?
I definitely think today's, the political parties today are more receptive to the idea of women entering politics for two reasons. Women have emerged as thought leaders who come out and vote in larger numbers as compared to men. Thought leaders, in a sense, they decide for themselves who they wish to vote. That's factor one. The other factor being the entire idea of having more women representation in the parliament and assemblies. That gives the political parties a capacity to be able to absorb more women. Any young woman who wishes to contribute to policy and politics, there's no better time than now to be a part of this change making process.
So, how did your transition happen? How did you enter into politics?
It was the 26/11 terror attacks that, considering I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, seeing my city being ravaged by a terrorist attack, and how we needed to regroup, regather, re energize to be able to build a resilient city, to be able to build a safe city, and every member's contribution was important. So what I started with was to handhold a few people along with women bloggers who used to blog. That is how the journey began, and it just kept moving forward in the sense I started to learn in the process how I could impact policies, how I could be a participant to politics. And around the same time, we had Mr. Gandhi start the idea of bringing in people from non-political background to break down those barriers that exist in our mind, that only those who come from political families or those who have that backing, who have a mentor, who are connected politically would be able to make it. He started that procedure, which I used at that point in time, and that became an instrument for who I am today.
I heard that your in-laws, are BJP supporters.
Yes.
How do you manage to balance it out when it comes to your family?
Initially, at a time when I joined and I became the national media panelist, but at the time of joining also there were many questions in their mind. Forget the political party that they think of. The biggest factor which was making them question my choice on this idea was that women are perceived in a very wrong way in politics. So they felt it was not the best space to be in, and that I will never be acknowledged.
Maybe it's not safe for you.
Not safe for me. So those are many things on their mind. The second, of course, was the political party choice. So we've had many, at times when elections full on, we've had many arguments, we've had many disagreements, and then finally we've reached to a conclusion that, okay, you have your ideas, I have mine. Let's not mix the family relationship, because I've seen a lot of personal relationships are, and I see my family as an important being of who I am. So I do not want to get into that. So I usually don't get into politics. So even if they're saying something which I totally disagree with, I do not counter them simply because it creates unnecessary friction.
A bold stand that you took was quitting the Congress.
Yeah.
About an instance that happened. Would you like to, explain what actually happened and how did you feel?
Actually, I felt very let down. I felt very let down with the party at that time. And I continue to feel that those are spaces which political parties need to address. What happened to me was that as part of a national spokesperson, because I don't go into much because till now it impacts me when I speak of it. But as a national spokesperson, I was expected to go across the country to take these press conferences. At that time, the Rafale issue had come up. And I was part of the core committee that Rahul Gandhi ji had made. There were 6 of us, and 6 of us were to travel across the country to hold press conferences and make people aware of what this Rafale controversy is, because it was a very technical issue. To simplify it, to let people know what is happening. So I was told one day by the General Secretary in charge then, which was Ghulam Nabi Azad, that since your parents come from Mathura and your family is in Mathura, why don't you do this press conference in Mathura? I took it up very excitedly because I had family there, and I could tell my family, look, I've come to Mathura as a politician and I'm going to be
I've
engaging.
arrived.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because Mathura is a town where women don't usually step out to work.
Yes.
And you're someone who's broken a lot of those barriers, and
Yes.
of course, many of them are BJP minded. But the point was that here I am, my
Yeah.
party's given me this space, I'm coming to Mathura. So I was very excited about the fact. What I didn't know in the background was that many people within the Congress felt that she's being sent to Mathura with the intention of making her contest elections. So I had nothing to do with Mathura in terms of contesting, but it was in the minds of those who had been working on the ground, thinking, wanting a ticket there. So they started to threaten
They were just
my
insecure.
department. Yeah. Insecurity led to threatening, to misbehavior, to the point where I did not know it till the last day of having to go there. I went with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is a huge Krishna Bhakt, Krishna devotee. And I remember it was just a day prior to Janmashtami. And it's a big thing for people from North India, from at least from Mathura, coming from the town of Krishna's Janambhumi. So it was important day for us. So I said, why don't you come with me? I wanted to kind of flex to her as well.
Oh, yeah.
But
Right.
it just turned so awry where the some goons within the party barged into my bedroom, said the nastiest things possible to my mother-in-law, misbehaved in a sense where they tried to block the press conference also from happening. It disturbed me a lot, and I could see right in front of my eyes, my mother-in-law's eyes, when the questions that had risen in their minds at the time I was joining politics to now, they were all coming back to kind of haunt her. That is it that my daughter-in-law has compromised? Is it that there's something wrong? Is that her journey has been questionable? I could see that, and I was like, listen, I've done my press conference and I'm leaving from here. But I did. My mother-in-law told me, "Why don't you file an FIR?" I said, "No, I can't do this against my party. Let me give my party a chance to do this." They did it. I mean, Ghulam Nabi Azad ji did suspend a few people. There were about 8 to 10 people who were suspended, and Jyotiraditya Scindia took charge of Western UP after some time. Jyotiraditya Scindia just a couple of months before elections. I was the first person who went to, because Jyotiraditya Scindia was known to me, I'd worked in Madhya Pradesh. I was the first person to go to him and explain to him the background. That do anything but don't bring these people back.
Right.
That was one. Don't give them that ticket because they feel that they have kind of shown me my place and they misbehaved very badly. The third point in my argument was that they continue to trouble my parents. My parents used to go to Mathura very often. They would not allow them to step inside the city.
It would have been very hurtful.
So when I spoke to him, he kind of sympathized, empathized. He said, "I'll keep it in mind." But when the ticket distribution came along, the person was given the ticket. I still felt, okay, chalo, party had no choice. I still gave them that benefit of doubt. The party had no choice, so they've given it to him. Some days before when the campaign began, that individual went to Jyotiraditya Scindia saying that I cannot campaign if I don't have my team in place. So very calmly that suspension was revoked and these people were brought back. I had a massive meltdown myself. I just could not handle it. That y'all have totally disregarded my sentiments. Y'all have disregarded the idea that my parents went through a lot of problem, and yet I did not complain to you, just because I was happy with the fact that my party took some action. Now you're undoing that as well. Lies were told to the leadership. Lies were told that Priyanka has been apologized to and Priyanka has forgiven them. They had the audacity to make a letter which was dated much before the revocation of the suspension, saying that, look, the apology letter had been couriered to her, which is untrue, incorrect. Only when I exposed it, they started to find reasons to, and I was like, I'm not taking this. I'm not going to take this lying down simply because what am I teaching my children? That don't stand for your parents. What am I teaching my son? That it's okay for you to treat the women the way they all feel like. My daughter, that it's absolutely okay to take this kind of behavior. It was a very decisive moment in my life. And it came all of a sudden. And for me, it became, whether it was through because I was being hot-headed about it or uncompromising about it, I said it's a make or break. Either you'll take some action or I'm moving. And that's exactly what happened. They seem to go in a deep freeze saying, oh, we are in the middle of an election, we can't do anything, we'll talk about it after election. I said, I'm not going to be a willing partner to waiting for next, for you all to decide after the election. I just resigned. Because I couldn't think of anything better. that if I'm not needed in the party, if you all think I'm just a nobody, my problem does not need to be addressed, and might as well give it up, no? But till date, I've never said this. I've never taken names simply because it doesn't suit anyone's. I mean, it goes below my dignity. I had my reasons. People who knew it knew it. But today, Mr. Scindia is sitting in the BJP, right? So, what are we even talking about? So, talking about women's issues, etc., all becomes very secondary at times. So, you have to tell them that, hello, this is a prerogative, this is a priority. My self respect and my dignity matters to me, may not matter to the world. If I don't fight for it, no one else is going to stand up for it. So, that was it, that was the decision.
You just spoke about Shiv Sena, right? So I was actually coming to that. What led you to join Shiv Sena after you quit Congress?
So there were two, three factors in that. So when I left the Congress party at that time, Aditya through BMC and through his vision was speaking about plastic ban. He was talking about beach cleanups. He was talking about environment degradation. He was talking about the environmental impact. He was talking about gender equality. How do we ensure better educational outcomes for our students in BMC schools? And I was very impressed with his ideas in the sense which I kept messaging him also. I said, this is something which is so close to my heart. I'm so glad you're taking this. I'm so glad you're talking about this. And when this issue happened, I remember speaking to him and telling him, "Ki, I don't know where I'm heading, but I'm heading back to Mumbai simply because my children are here, my family is here." And that's the point where we both thought that it made more sense if I'm coming back to Mumbai, Maharashtra to contribute to Shiv Sena. The other thing about Shiv Sena was that as much as I might have been critical during the Congress era about how Shiv Sena functions or various challenges that we were seeing in the BMC, I started to understand the issues better when I became a part of it. But Balasaheb Thackeray ji was somebody when I was growing up in Mumbai. There were many no-go areas for women. There were many unsafe zones for women after some time. And I remember so clearly that he kept saying that there can be no part of my city or my state which is inaccessible for women. And every time you feel lonely, every time you feel unsafe, look for your shakha close by. And that was such a brilliant confidence building measure for women. I would say at least my generation at that point in time, which made me such a confident person that even in cities like Delhi, I would not fear the late hours, etc. Because you're born and raised in such a fashion. I think he was a prime example of how we're talking about equal spaces. And so those were things which I thought were progressive ideas. Besides the contentious history, etc., of course, we will continue to discuss that. But those were reasons why I felt that I'd be able to do better, perform better, and get a platform to be able to implement the ideas that I have.
You have worked with Uddhav Thackeray ji quite closely. So, do you feel whatever happened to him, it was like unfair? Him being, the son and the party being, kind of.
Yes, because I've seen them work with only a very good intent of changing how Maharashtra is and outcomes of the state. We are seeing that Maharashtra is the growth engine of this country. And if at any point it is dealt with bad leadership choices, then the entire country suffers. So they understood that commitment to it. They're good human beings that they gave positions to people who they felt they could A, trust, B, were capable. When he became the chief minister, he gave the UD ministry, which most chief ministers across the state, country, if you look at the chief ministers, they don't part of the urban development ministry. But he did it out of faith and belief that he's my strongest person, so I will promote him as well. He's taken people along. For someone like me, many people, of course, accuse me, oh, you switched parties because of getting this, getting that. That was not the case. My genuine issue was forgotten because of what I got 1.5 years down the line. But at that time, to give me that platform, have shown that faith in me, to say that yes, you can go, speak for us in the parliament. Those were very, I would say that comes out of an intent of good leadership, having faith in their team.
Talking about Congress, there are so many people who have been leaving Congress, since years, and even more so now.
Yeah.
So, do you feel, very honest answer, do you feel Congress is doomed forever?
I wouldn't call any party doomed forever, because it's just that the intent and commitment to being able to, and that hunger to fight back, that hunger in your belly to conquer. Conquer would be a wrong word because I'll be trolled unnecessarily. To conquer in the sense to propagate their idea of what India is. The beauty of Congress party, which they seem to have forgotten, is that they were the ones who were fighting for the independence movement. They were at the forefront of it. The beauty of it is they ensured that there was an inclusive constitution. They ensured that there was a country which had a scientific temperament. They ensured that a lot of its growth, the party's growth, came from the youth of the country at that point in time, which aligned with the Congress party. They understood, I mean, they were at a point in time which understood, were concerned with the sentiments of the people. Somehow it seems to have either got lost in the entire size of the political party, the size of the setup.
What's wrong, with the party? What happens? What do you think is, the nemesis?
So I'm sorry, I wouldn't say any party is doomed. It's just about resurrection. It's just about going out there and giving it your 100%. And I see that hunger now in which I was seeing in 2018 and 17 also, when Rahul Gandhi took over as a president of the party. A lot of non-cooperation came from people who had the same old ideas of how Congress should be run. And that those were challenges which I also saw. I suffered the consequences of it. That hunger to understand the country, to speak to the country, to directly reach out to the voters, he did through his Bharat Jodo Yatra. So till the time I would say there's no way. I can't say a definite way of winning back confidence, but the definite way of instilling confidence in the minds of the people would be that we are here for you. We will fight all the fights. And we are committed to the idea of constitutional propriety and democratic principles, and not getting into the narrative that Mr. Modi tries to build, because he's a good, effective communicator. Don't jump into those communication narratives that he tries to trap you all into. So those are few things. It's just the tweaking and reconnecting with the youth, coming up with fresh vision of your roadmap for India.
बट कहा जा रहा है कि अभी तो मोदी की गारंटी आ रही है एंड अब की बार 400 पार इज द स्लोगन बाय बीजेपी. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट इट?
Okay, so Modi guarantees like a Chinese warranty.
ओके.
तो आपने चाइनीज खिलौना खरीद लिया पर 20 रुपए का, ये सोच कर सस्ते में मिला, अच्छा मिला, कितना खूबसूरत लग रहा है, और 2 घंटे के बाद बंद हो सकता है काम करना. It's the same with Mr. Modi's guarantee.
Okay.
Tell me the 4 guarantees he's giving you.
हाँ.
महंगाई, गरीबी. So ज्ञान is what Nirmala Sitharaman call it. ज्ञान, गरीब, युवा, अन्नदाता, नारी. अब मुझे बताओ, go back to 2014.
हाँ.
when he was running for the prime minister. गरीब, बहुत हुई महंगाई की मार, हमारे डॉलर का रेट देखो, शर्म आई है, जितना प्रधानमंत्री की उम्र उतना तो डॉलर रुपी का whatever. फिर पेट्रोल का दाम, ये वो पता नहीं, अनाप शनाप सब कुछ. देन युवा, इतनी बेरोजगारी, 2 करोड़ नौकरियां दूंगा, 15 करोड़ ले आऊं, 15 लाख तुम्हारे खातों में जमा कर दूंगा. युवा. अन्नदाता, आपकी आमदनी दुगनी कर दूंगा. 2014 के ये सारे नारे थे. नारी शक्ति, बहुत हुआ नारी परिवार अब की बार मोदी सरकार. चारों चीजें फिर से रीपैकेज कर मोदी गारंटी बन रही है. सो पीपल अंडरस्टैंड दैट. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू गेट इनटू दैट बिकॉज पीपल आर नाउ लाफिंग एट हिज स्पीचेस. Today, I don't know if you've been following his speeches. Today, he has accused the Congress party of running on Adani Ambani black money. They have given you truckloads of money. I mean, I'm sure as a 6-year-old also who's watching, अरे पापा जी अडानी तो मोदी जी के फ्रेंड है और आज अडानी जी को कांग्रेस से कनेक्ट करने की कोशिश है. 6-year-old will say कि बॉस क्या दोस्ती टूट गई क्या? So I mean that's the kind of level of hilarity that is coming through his whatever he's speaking. So that's Chinese guarantee warranty. Now the other part about 400 par, I think that's such a dangerous narrative. And I'll tell you why. All their candidates have gone and spoken that we need this number of seats to be able to change the constitution. What is the problem with the constitution? I ask you, I ask everyone, what's the problem with my constitution? My constitution, wherever the tweaks were needed, for example, reservation for women in panchayats, creating a local body, etc., were through constitutional amendments. They were progressive ones. Or for that matter, termination of women pregnancy, adding, making those changes. But that's the medical termination of pregnancy. That's another thing. The constitutional amendments came to further or to kind of match up to the realities of today. He wants to change the constitution because RSS has said it on multiple forums that they have a problem with reservation. They have a problem with any reserved quota for those who are minority, SC, ST, OBCs. They have a problem with that. 2025, RSS turns 100 years old. Their stated agenda has been to undo the reservation. Their candidates are talking about undoing the reservation. So what Mr. Modi's idea was that we get these 400 seats and we're answerable to nobody. If you go to the parliament, if you anyone watches the parliamentary procedure, every time a tough question is asked of any minister, you know what his standard response is? हमें तो जनता का प्रेम मिला हुआ है. We have 303 seats. We're not answerable to this hatash, nirash opposition. But that opposition, even when BJP was at 2, was being made to answer to by the minister. But now we are in a position where the minister say, हमें तो 303 मिला है. Why should we answer you?
So there is a section which says that the democracy is under threat,
Yeah.
if that happens.
Not just that. Listen, I'll give you the example of Surat. What's happened in Surat? That one fine day you just reject the candidature of the opposition MP candidate, then you go to Indore. Indore, just 2 hours before the nomination was taken away, the man takes away the nomination, and he joins the BJP. You know, our former speaker Sumitra Mahajanji has been a constant winner from Indore. Indore is a seat which has been with the BJP since the 1980s. It has never lost Indore. She has gone on record 2 days ago where she said, "ये करने की क्या जरूरत थी बीजेपी को? You all have been winning this constantly. सरकार बीजेपी की है राज्य में, सरकार बीजेपी की है केंद्र में. कभी तुम ये सीट नहीं हारे हो. ये आपको करने की क्या जरूरत थी? I am getting people who are BJP supporters saying that we will go and vote for Nota, but you have snatched that vote from us. Vote snatched from Surat." And then they also, the candidates candidature was cancelled. Then the other 8 independents also threatened not to contest, to withdraw their nomination. Same we are seeing in Gandhinagar, where Amit Shah is contesting. He is also 16 candidates were made to sit down. And it became Sonal Ben Shah did not take back her nomination, so she contested. Same we saw in Khajuraho, where a Samajwadi Party candidate was rejected, so there was no competition. They tried to do this in Ramtek in Maharashtra, but they failed. The last minute, the husband stepped in because he was a dummy candidate. So you are creating in Arunachal, I don't know if you know, 10 candidates again have won without an election. So basically you're saying, तुम्हें वोट करने की भी क्या जरूरत है? हम उनको डराकर धमकाकर घर पे बिठा देंगे. आप वोट मत करो. आप सोचो सूरत के बच्चे जो 18 साल के होंगे, so you know how exciting it is to be voting for the first time. And they would have thought हम जो सेल्फी लगाएंगे. उन्हें सेल्फी का भी मौका तुमसे लिया. हमने तो चुन दिया कैंडिडेट कौन है. अरे even if there's one candidate, नोटा के खिलाफ खड़ा कर दो. People, however angry they might be and they wish to vote for the nota, you may end up winning. But at least there was a procedure.
Right. So now let's come to the lighter part of the interview, which is I have heard that you have loved reading books.
Yeah.
So we have certain names, and we would like you to make a book title on them.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try.
A book title for Indian elections.
Actually, the Great Indian Circus.
Wow, that's really witty. All right then. The current national ruling government.
The biggest lie ever told to you.
Smriti Irani.
A woman who could do so much more. Or maybe the second thing would be a woman who let down the cause she fought for.
Eknath Shinde.
The story of a traitor.
Okay, now let's come to Uddhav Thackeray.
I would say a man who led from the front.
Kangana Ranaut.
The controversy queen.
So I'm sure it's a respite for you in this stressful time where you are campaigning so extensively. Maybe some light-hearted.
Oh yeah. We do have many light-hearted moments where we laugh, we joke, and we talk about various other things besides the immediate discussion or the speech that we are going to give. But under the entire laughter and the humor is a sense of concern for this nation. This nation should not be absorbed by a whole set of lies. The nation should be able to have a critical mind, should be able to question, should be encouraged to be part of the political processes, asked to read books. As a spokesperson, when I joined politics, because of course I was reading quite a few books. I continue to read a lot of books on the BJP also, on RSS also, to understand what my opposition thinks. You cannot be so invested in your own idea that you refuse to acknowledge another idea. So till you don't understand both ideas and then take a call.
Your one message to the voters out there.
My message to all the voters would be that take this responsibility seriously. It is a right which has been given to you, enshrined in the Constitution, and this is the very right that could be taken away at any given point in time just simply because you do not choose to be part of the political process. The politicians you choose and elect today would be also the decision makers of the future of your next generation as well as this generation. They are the ones who are going to be deciding on your education policy, your employment policies, your welfare policies, your all your challenges that you face in how you live and what you do and what you aspire to be. So please take this opportunity seriously. Please fulfill your responsibility, your duty towards this nation, because every single vote leads to better nation building.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.